welcome. We're glad you're able to take a short break from your crazy life and join our crazy life here at Mums at the Table. We have got plenty to talk about today, but before we get started, I will introduce you to those who will be doing the talking. We've got Shona.
Not so crazy.
Jury's not even out on that. Rachel.
I'm definitely not as crazy as you.
And Julie.
And I'm less crazy again.
Yeah, okay, I don't know where I sit. No comment, let's keep moving. Well, coming up, we're going to be chatting to award-winning children's author Penny Jay. She's written a new book for young adults that tackles the truth about the real and very unfathomable topic of trafficking. And we find out how she's gone about writing this and why it's actually aimed at young adults. And should we as a community be backtracking on stranger danger? What are the benefits of encouraging our kids to talk to random people? And we talk about our own highs and lows of parenting because that's the craziest roller coaster we've all been on. Plus, we're going to pop into the kitchen with Gia and Olive, who are challenging us again, this time making almond butter rice bubbles. But to get the stone rolling, a discussion point that tends to divide the community. We take you to the Daily Mail in the UK, where earlier this year a headmaster was praised by parents for allowing them to take their children on holiday for a designated week during the term. Now, parents in the UK can cop quite a serious fine for unauthorised absences, but here in Australia and New Zealand, by law, students are required to be at school learning every day that it's open, but the consequences differ with each state here in Australia and over in New Zealand. Now, Are we pushing things too far by saying parents are doing too much damage by taking their kids out of school?
I guess we have to ask a teacher, you know. But I think as a parent, But
a parent should be able to assess if it's pulling their child back academically, surely.
No, I think a teacher will probably be more frustrated about the learning, and they're the ones who have to get the kids back up to speed, you know.
And keep the curriculum rolling.
Yeah.
It's really hard if you're teaching a new concept and you've got 3 or 4 kids away, even if they're away just for sickness.
So that makes a difference if they're away for such a short period of time?
It can. It depends when, like if you're teaching a new maths concept that particular day or that particular week and you've got a couple of kids away, they come back, you've got the class moved on, you've got to try and, you know, it can be quite difficult.
Yeah.
But a fine's the right approach, like...
My oath. My oath. If you can afford to take them out on a holiday, you can afford to pay the fine.
Okay, hang on, because there's a fair...
I'm kidding.
There is a fair argument because parents have to contend with a lot of other people on holidays and the prices are completely jacked up.
Well, you know, I was giving the perspective of the teacher, but I'm completely of the perspective that as a parent, I should be able to take my kid out to go on a holiday.
But how would you like it if the teacher suddenly decided halfway through the term she was going to take a week off on holidays?
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, get a relief.
I don't think teachers should have to compete with all the crowds that they've had at school during the term and have to pay those higher prices. I think
because the teachers are not allowed. Well, I don't know, but I don't see teachers very often taking time off during the term.
They don't,
I've started to see more.
It's happening more and more. I think. I think you've just got to talk. If you're thinking of doing it as a parent, talk to your teacher, negotiate. You know, how can we work through this?
Well, here in Australia, they don't get fines like on the spot like they do elsewhere. They actually have to go through, you know, transition plans and working as to why they're not doing it. Perhaps go to the courts, and then sort of a last resort is fine. So it is a little bit different here. I think they really want the teachers and parents to work better together. Yeah. I don't know, what would you do with Jax? Are you inclined to be able to, when he goes to school, would you want to take him out for a mental health day or for a holiday?
I mean, it's not even that. I'm thinking even of homeschooling. So I'm all for flexible schooling. And I think that a lot of learning happens outside of the classroom. I think on the holiday, lots of learning activities can happen as well. So, I'm definitely the one who's on the side of you should be able to take them out, as long as you're responsible enough to keep them up to speed.
Does it disrupt the rest of the classroom when someone else is gone?
Well, it can,
That's what the article said too, wasn't it? That, you know, if my best friend's gone on holiday and I'm left at school, then there was this whole separation anxiety and all sorts of things going on as well, jealousy.
Well, you can help your kid build resilience.
Yeah,
like say,
isn't that something you have to sort of learn to live with?
As adults, we get jealous of other people going on holiday.
Well, I'm just saying that's what the article said, ladies. Don't kill the messenger here.
Okay. This is a good time to take it online. I just want to tell you a quote that I thought was really good, though. It was the famous Russian dancer Rudolf Nureyev. I hope I said that right. That he said, "When I miss class for one day, I know it. When I miss class for 2 days, my teacher knows it. And when I miss class for 3 days, the audience knows it." So maybe it is an intelligence thing. Well, what side of the fence do you sit on? Jump onto Facebook and YouTube and let us know. Well, we might be okay to take children out of school for a holiday, but would you let them talk to strangers? We all know the term stranger danger, and we've had it drilled into us from parents, from schools, from media. that we don't talk to strangers? Well, English writer James Johnson is concerned that the childhood habit, which is drilled into us, of ignoring the majority of the population follows us into adulthood, and that we're missing out on some of the greatest connections life actually has to offer. There was also a TED talk on it, and it was really good, talking about those connections that we're missing and how, as kids, because that message is drilled into us, it actually follows us into adulthood. What do you think? Do you think you're comfortable talking to strangers now?
No, I'm not, and I wish I was better at it. I think, no, I look at my two girls and one would just talk to anybody. I remember saying their dad would go through the checkout and they would have heard our whole family history by the time they'd been through the checkout, which is a little bit embarrassing. But, yeah, and other children, they just don't, and they have to be taught how to do it because they miss out, I think, on so much in life if they can't just go and talk to people, you know, easily.
But we have the message stranger danger for a reason, like, and kids start to think anyone they don't know is dangerous. Yeah. And we're sort of leading them into I don't know, are we leading them into a false area in life? Because most people are fairly decent, aren't they?
I had the opposite where my kids would be quite happy to go and talk to anybody. Anytime, and like your husband would tell them their whole life story, where they lived, what their phone number was, what time we were going to be home, and they're sort of like, well, I don't think they quite want to know all of that, son. But, you know, even teaching them stranger danger, they are still very outgoing children now, and they've learnt who to talk to and who not to talk to. And I think that's more what we should be teaching our children, rather than saying, don't talk to anybody that looks different. We should be encouraging them to work on that gut feeling. You know, know yourself whether somebody is dangerous or not.
I think it's about confidence. Like, you want to teach your kid the confidence to talk to someone else, but also the hospitality that they have with other people. But I think you still have to be cautious. But I think those are still lessons you can teach. You know?
And there's so much to be gained by talking to people that you don't know, people from different cultures, people that are different ages.
I was overseas recently and sort of met up with a lady. She was sitting on her own, and my friend and I were together, and we ended up chatting and inviting her to join our meal. I'm now friends with her on Facebook, and I'm following her travels and what she's doing. And it was lovely, because I was that kid that the parent muffled, going, be quiet, don't tell them everything.
Well, Aaron, my youngest, was exactly the same. He's just come back from Europe doing a gap year, and we were sort of like, oh, how's he going to go? Because he's so quiet and so insular to us. And all of a sudden we started getting Instagrams, and this is my friend from Spain, and this is my friend from Italy, and I'm like, wow.
But maybe he needed to step out, because you're quite outgoing, so maybe he...
Oh, really?
So maybe he needed his own space to, like, you know, come out and be his own
but I was
person.
really impressed that he actually managed to speak to people and make friends in other countries.
His life will be enriched
all
hugely for it. Well, what do you do? Some people don't want to talk to others as adults, and some people do. Let us know on Facebook. Well, next up, they are no strangers, and they're often opening us up to new edible opportunities. Here's Gia and Olive in the kitchen.
In the 80s, when I grew up, we got to eat chocolate crackles at school, like fates and stuff. We got to sell them. Now that I know how to make them, they were so full of sugar and chocolate. So I thought we could share. I found a recipe online that's like a healthier version, and you can sell them at school if you like. These are like an almond butter crackle slice, okay? So in this, it's quite a simple recipe. Everything in a pot. So I've just got a medium pot here, and I'm heating it on the stove. So it's half a cup of rice malt syrup. So rice malt syrup is in the health food section of any supermarket. Do you want to try this and tell me if it's sweet? Does it taste like honey?
Tastes like honey.
Does it? So rice malt syrup, half a cup of almond butter. You just want it to all melt together like a little melting pot. I've used 1 tablespoon of non-dairy margarine or butter, so Nuttelex or whatever's on special usually I get. 1 tablespoon of maple syrup. You don't even have to put the maple syrup in there because it is quite sweet with the rice malt syrup. And this is just a touch of salt. And then all you have to do is warm it until it's mixed through really well. So if you see it bubbling too much, just lower the heat. Okay, so you have a look at that. So it's still thick, it's all melted through, it's all combined really well. So it's 3.5 cups of rice bubbles or rice puffs, gluten-free. You can get the gluten-free ones in the health food section. I forgot to put 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla essence in that. So you need to put it in once you've finished melting the almond butter and the rice malt syrup. At the end, you put the vanilla essence and mix it through, then you put the rice bubbles in. And now I'm gonna melt our chocolate In here, I've got 1/3 of a cup of just non-dairy chocolate chips, and I've got half a teaspoon of coconut butter, coconut oil. I'm gonna melt it now. We're gonna see if Shona's right when it comes to this. So if you're watching this, Shona, gotta let me know if I've done it right. Okay. So the chocolate chips, nearly melted. Just another 30 seconds. Okay, so I'm just pouring that in there. And I'm gonna check the chocolate. Well, I think Shona's right. It's hot! I think Shona's right because look at this. I've just got, you want some melted chocolate on there? There we go, some chocolate there. So here you go. So here's our bar. I've just used an 8x8. I've lined it with baking paper. I'll make sure it's like firmly down, evenly laid out, because you're gonna cut it into little squares. Just pour the chocolate on top, like that. Some coconut, shredded coconut, and there you have it. It's going straight in the fridge. Here, you can lick some of that. And we'll be back to show you what it looks like. So we are back, but Olive disappeared and we've got Moses, her little brother, which we're so glad he's 3 now, so we're letting him be on film with us, hey. So I had put these in the freezer. You can just put them in the fridge if you like, but this is what they're gonna look like. That's how thick it was. And we're gonna cut it into little squares for a treat, or you could just have them like, just yourself actually, for your lunches. I'm only gonna give you a little piece to try and you can tell me if it's tasty, okay? And I'll try a little piece too. I hope you enjoy this recipe. Please follow us on Facebook on The Table TV Show. We have heaps and heaps of recipes for you and your family. Healthy, easy recipes. Try them. Follow us. Let us know what you think about them and what you did to change the recipe, because even that helps. Enjoy. We're going to try our tasty crackles, aren't we? I'm going to try. Say bye.
Bye.
Well, Gia, Olive and Moses have more great recipes that you can find in our Mums at the Table magazine. So to grab your free subscription, write to us at hello@mumsathetable.com. Well, from others judging your parenting to the fear of losing your child, the moments your child picks you up emotionally, to the confronting horror of adjusting to your body changes. Everyone has stories that come to mind when the topic of parenting highs and lows come up. Well, today we want to share some of ours with you. And is parenting really supposed to be that psychotic roller coaster that it is?
Oh, yeah.
Ladies, we love this topic, don't we? We should have so many stories. But what are some of the highs that come to mind, Rach, when you think about, the parenting joys?
I think it's just looking at Jax's little face and just as he's learning things and as he's just saying little things like, I love you. It's like that reward of, all of the parenting is worth it. All the
Isn't
heart.
it lovely watching them sort of come out and that personality start to sort of take form and watching them learn stuff? I love that too.
Yeah. And laughing at the craziness, but behind their back, you have to turn your back and laugh to yourself.
Wait till they're teenagers, it takes on a whole nother level. But good. I know people say, the teenage years, but I actually really enjoyed the teenage years.
Yeah.
Because they're so funny. They're so clever and witty, and the sledging that goes on in our
They're
family.
almost part of yourself. You can see yourself in them even more.
Which is good and bad.
No, and Gary and I were talking about this the other day, driving home from Sydney after we'd all been down as a family to visit Nana, and it's a joy to see your children growing into beautiful people at the end of your parenting, and you can actually we can sit back now as they're young men and go, we haven't done too bad a job as a parent.
I hope I can say that.
We've all been there. We're all worried about that.
Yeah.
So what have been some of the scary moments, the sort of the down moments you've had as a parent?
I would say that not scary or down, but I would say the time I was the most down about parenting was probably in those very early days. I remember going to the park for the first time and thinking, this cannot be my life. I cannot be one of these people who are going to spend their entire lives at a park all the time.
Oh, you didn't like that?
No, I wasn't accepting that I was a parent. I was like, this is my life. Seriously, this is what I do.
Yeah.
There's nothing, I was so depressed. I remember everyone around me was so happy, and then Pete was asking me, why are you so upset? And it's like, how do you put that in words?
Yeah.
I'm upset to be at a park
Or
right
the
now.
first time your child gets a temperature or gets sick and you
to
don't know,
hospital.
or goes to hospital, and you're just, you don't know what to do. Yeah.
I think your greatest fear is sickness and safety as a
'cause
parent.
you've got no control.
When they get their
Yes.
red peas.
Driving.
And you see them drive off into the sunset, you're like, please, God, bring them home.
Denial.
And I remember thinking, is this what it's going to be like now? I'm going to worry forever. And I'm thinking, yep, I'm going to worry forever.
And did you?
Well, I did, and I still do, but I remember thinking, I have to get over this.
Yeah.
I cannot be like this forever. I have to let this go. I have to give this to you, God.
Yeah.
And, you know, and you get to that point where you have to get on
You just
with
hand it over.
Yeah.
My next fear is the girlfriends, because we haven't really started.
They're probably going to be more scared of you, Shona.
Oh, wow. Maybe that's why they don't have girlfriends.
So what has being a parent taught you about God?
It has taught me to have unconditional love for my kids, no matter what they do or what they say. I remember saying to my boys, even if you were a mass murderer, I would still love you. I would not like what you've done, but I would love you. And that's how God sees me.
It takes you to brand new depths, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, we've started the ball rolling, but we want to hear your thoughts on the highs and lows of parenting. Share with us on Facebook and YouTube. Well, just as parenting moments can be all about timing, apparently so can exercise. Here's Alicia to tell you how.
Hi, it's Alicia, the Table's resident personal trainer, back with you with another little fitness tidbit. Today we're going to talk about everything timing. Now, what I mean by this is I'm going to ask you a question. How many of you have done a workout before where you've just like pumped through the exercises as fast as you can?
Absolutely.
Just to get them done.
Yes.
I like doing that because it's like the stress relief of the exercise instead of the slow.
Okay. So the question is, like, is that effective? And if so, how? And if it's not effective, what could you be doing that's different?
I was like, we think it is, but.
Well, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little demonstration to see the difference, because basically it really comes down to whatever your goal or your purpose is. Now, if you're going to pump out exercises really fast, that's going to work more into getting the heart rate up and burning more fuel within that time, right? Because the higher the heart rate's up, the more your metabolism is going.
So I'm burning more when I'm doing it fast.
You are burning more when you're doing it faster. However, if you want to get more shape, and that comes from building lean muscle, then slowing it down is going to get the muscles to actually have to work harder, and that change will come more so in the shape of your body.
But I know some women are always concerned about getting too bulky or whatever.
Okay. Yes, true. Look, to be honest, for a woman to get bulky, they would have to be training like a professional bodybuilder to do that, because our bodies literally, for the most part, do not produce enough testosterone or nearly as much testosterone as a man. And so males, that's why they can get bulky compared to females, usually quite quicker. Now, you will find some females do have more of a muscular physique, and they might be quicker, but they're few and far between, to be honest. So strength training, don't be afraid of it. It's a total myth that you're going to bulk up from lifting a dumbbell. Like, it's just not going to happen. All right, so I want you to come and just all stand up here with me. And what we're going to do is demonstrate, first of all, some fast squats. So I'm going to get you to do 15 fast squats as fast as you can. Okay, ready, set, let's go. So 1,
Keep up with rate.
2,
Oh my goodness.
3, 4, 5, that's it, 6, 7, 8, 9, no stopping, 10, 5 more, 5, 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. Okay, good.
Oh, man.
Whose heart rate's up?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thighs are burning.
Now let's go slow, and I want you to feel the difference here. So I'm going to count it. We're going to do 3 counts down, 1 pause at the bottom, 3 counts
Oh, wow,
up.
that is slow.
So it's kind of the other extreme. Okay, so you ready? Here we go. Down for 3, 2, 1, pause. Now up for 3, 2, 1, straight back down. 3, 2, 1, pause. 3, 2, 1, up. Okay, 1 more. 3, 2, 1, pause. 3, 2, 1, up.
You talked to us before about isometric stuff.
Okay. That's
Happens
getting
at the
more
bottom?
into isometrics, exactly. You're holding, okay, which means your muscles have to work harder to keep them there. Now,
Burns harder.
did it burn harder? That's right. Okay. Now, if you want to, if your goal or if you want to challenge your body in more of a muscular endurance way, slowing them down does a few things. It makes your muscles work harder, and secondly, it means that your body's going to have to pull on more stores to do it, right? So you're still burning fat while you're doing it. So it's totally still worth it in terms of like your fat burning, but it's just a way to challenge yourself and give yourself a bit of a harder workout. So come join us for some workouts on our YouTube channel. We've got some great ones there for you, and I hope you enjoy it as much as these girls just did.
Right now, we are sitting down with award-winning author Penny J, although you may know her better as Penny Reeve. She's written over 20 children's books, including the popular Madison and Tanya Abbey series, and has recently ventured into the young adults fiction section with her new book, Out of the Cages. It's a fictional story about trafficking based on true stories. Now, on top of that, she's also a mum of 3 and trained primary educator. Penny, welcome to Mums at the Table. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Look, I'm glad you're here because I've got so many questions. It's quite an interesting topic that you've tackled here Out of the Cages about trafficking and then aimed it at young adults. What sort of drove you to tackle this topic and put it into sort of a fictional story?
Well, we lived in Nepal for about 5 years in the early 2000s, and when I was there, I just started hearing more and more stories of people who were trafficked across the border into India and beyond, and especially young people and young girls. And I just started sort of thinking, you know, how is this happening? And especially what happens if they come home? Can they ever come home? And that was really just started me thinking. And one day I was talking with one of my friends, and she shared her photo album, and there was a girl in there I didn't recognise. And I said, "Who is that girl?" And she said, "Well, she went down to the river one day to wash her clothes, and she never came back." Wow. And I thought, you know, she may have just had an accident and gone in the river, or she may have run away. But what if she had been trafficked? And what would it be like for her to come home? And that's where the story came from, and that's what started me writing.
It really sort of tackles some deep areas, particularly for young adults. So why have you aimed it at young adults?
Yeah, and that was a question I had to really think through as I was trying to write it, because the content can be quite confronting. You know, the protagonist, she's 12 years old and she gets trafficked into a brothel. But I thought, for young people, the message in this story is one of hope, and I really believe that young people these days, they experience a lot of hardship, and they hear, and some people have such pain in their lives, but how do we heal from that? And that's what I wanted to explore in this story. You know, these girls, they go through some terrible stuff, but how do they heal? And I think that's a message that's useful for all of us, but especially for young people. They need to know that healing is possible, that it's tough, but that we can face it with courage. Yeah, that's why I believe it's a novel for that age group.
So what sort of research did you sort of have to do to be able to put this book together? Because I understand it took several years.
It did.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like 12 or...
Yes, 12 years from first draft to the book, yeah.
What research was involved? How did you do that?
Well, I did the first draft when we were living in Nepal. So a lot of that initial research was visiting rehab centres, and it was on-the-ground stuff. I had the privilege of meeting some survivors and hearing some of their stories. But I didn't ask too many specific interviews, because I thought I didn't want to make them relive that. But I was interested in what it was like for them coming home. And so then I had a messy first draft, and we returned to Australia, and then I had to rewrite it. And as I rewrote it, I knew I had to do more research. I did a stop the traffic trip to India and did some more research then. We went to Mumbai and Bangalore and Assam, and a lot of that research ended up making the story even richer. So a lot of research went into this novel. And although it is an entirely fictional story, each little bit in it is based on something that I learned, something that actually
Pockets
happened.
of truth.
Yeah.
So, Penny,
exactly.
what took you to Nepal in the first place?
My husband and I were working with TIR Australia, and we were seconded to work with International Nepal Fellowship, which is a health and development agency that works in Nepal, and my husband was the accountant, and so he helped. I say he helped keep the hospitals running. Yeah, and so that's
what
why
were
we
you
were
doing
there.
while he was doing that?
I was mumming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so
had
you
very
took your
important.
children
We
with
did.
you as well?
Yes.
How did they cope with that?
Yeah, it was great.
Did you have any moments where you thought, I shouldn't be here with young kids?
No. Okay. I didn't actually, because I grew up, my parents did mission as I was growing up, so it was something that I was sort of used to, being in different contexts with kids as a kid myself, so I thought it was normal. Yeah.
Penny,
but it had challenges.
I'm sorry. I've seen that you say, I always write to find the beauty, hope, strength, and love that's hidden within those stories, even in the hard places. Where do you find that sense of hope that you can find the beauty in those hard places?
Where do I find that hope?
Yeah, like how can you find that hope and that beauty in those hard places?
Well, I think that's the way God works, is that we live in a world that's broken and with so much awfulness, especially when you think about trafficking. And yet we were made in his image, and so I believe that there must be beauty within us and within our relationships as well. And so when I am looking at something really terrible like trafficking or poverty, which I tackle in some of my other books, I try to dig through that, and I try to see where is the kingdom of God shining here? Where is the love of God shining? And I try to pull those things out in the stories that I write.
That's a great life principle for us as well.
Yeah, I
just
suppose
finding the beauty.
that's how I try to wade through life.
Yeah.
Was this your first book for young adults? Because I know most of your books have been for children.
Yes. Yeah, this is my first.
So why the transition?
I think the story, I always write the story for the audience. And because I knew this was going to be a fairly confronting story. It obviously wasn't going to be for little kids, and it was always going to be for young adults. Yeah.
Have you seen it make an impact? The book, you heard people read the book and respond to that?
Yeah, I have. I've had several people sort of email me, and I remember one person emailed me and they said they got to the end of my book and they don't know really how to respond yet. They can't put it in words, but they know one thing: they want to do something to help.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so I thought, that's one of the core reasons I wanted to write this story.
What can people do to help?
I think we need to learn more about human trafficking.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you're right. We need to sort of shed more light on it, and you're starting. And I just want to let everyone know we've actually got a limited number of Penny J's books to give away. We've got Out of the Cages and her award-winning book, Camp Max. So that's for younger kids, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yep. So we have a limited number to give away. All you need to do is write to us at hello@mumsathetable.com and ask for your copy. I wanted to ask you about Camp Max because you did you won the Caleb Prize for that. What's that one about? Like, is that just a sort of a short kid story or?
Yeah, so that's a novel for about 6 to 10-year-olds. And what I really wanted to look at was how does a typical Aussie kid respond to the world's poor?
Right.
That is sort of one of the themes in that story. And
because they're quite different themes you're sort of looking at in all of the books that you're doing. It's not sort of what's out there in mainstream bookstores and media, is it?
And I think it comes from, because I really believe that kids can make a difference.
Yeah.
And kids can be agents of change. And so in Camp Max, she really wants to go on a camp with her best friend, but her best friend's family have given that money away to help people in a developing nation.
Yep.
And so she thinks, oh, that's great, but I really wanted my friend to come. So there's this
We can't give too much away. But thank you so much for joining us today on the show. We really appreciate it. We will catch you next time with more great topics. There is always room for you at the table. Bye for now.